Today I'm going to show you how I'm making an MPC One setup that works for me.
Freebie.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat, where I post new music-related content every single day, so if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Today's patron shout-out goes to Jason H. Thank you so very much for the support. Let's get started. So some of you out there probably know that the MPC One and I have had quite a rocky relationship lately. I've just had a very frustrating time trying to learn the sampler and the workflow, and I've come to the conclusion that the sampler and the workflow just really aren't my thing. And that's okay. I've been told that I just need simple instant gratification gear, or that I'm too stupid to understand it. I've been called a Muppet. All sorts of just wonderful things. I'd like to think that none of those are true. It's just not a particular workflow that I enjoy. However, I recently took another piece of gear that really didn't get me going either, the Behringer Model D, and incorporated it into a completely different use case than I had originally intended. It's now part of my DAW setup, and it really doesn't show up on camera, but I've been using it in a lot of my DAW music, and I really enjoyed it. So I kind of inspired myself, I guess you could say, to keep trying the MPC One in new situations until I found one that really spoke to me. And I think I'm finally on the right track. So for the past 2 days in a row, I've posted drum synth jams on the MPC One, which, if you don't know, the drum synth is a plugin. Oh, the glare on my screen right now is really bad at my angle. It's a plugin that is basically a drum synthesizer, sort of like the Microtonic software or the Nord 3P. I don't think it's as deep or extensive as either of those pieces of gear/software, but it's still pretty cool. And it has one feature in particular that allows it to be very, very playable, either by the pads on the MPC or by an external controller. In my case right now, the Roland SPD-SX. So before I go any further on the screen, let me explain the wire situation here, the cabling. So we'll start right here. These are just the audio outs from the MPC to my audio interface. This black cable here is power to the MPC going to the wall. This black cable is power going to the Roland SPD-SX. And this gray USB cable here is MIDI between the two. So I have the Roland SPD-SX controlling the Akai MPC One via USB MIDI. None of the sounds you're going to hear in this video are going to come from the SPD-SX. While it is a fantastic sampler and sample player, industry standard in fact, I have no audio out coming out of this. All the sounds are coming from the MPC directly. So when we load up the MPC drum synth, we have a bunch of different options. We can do a clap, a crash, a hi-hat, a kick, a multi-instance, which I'll skip that for now, perk, ride, snare, and tom. Now, if we go back to multi and click on that, that's actually all of those sounds at once into one kit. I'm going to see if I can lower the camera brightness. Maybe that'll help the MPC screen show up a little bit better. Let's go into Program Edit, and we can see we are now in the drum synth. So down at the bottom, we have all of our different drums, and we can go through and edit a variety of parameters. And all 8 of our drums are mapped to the first 8 pads that you can clearly see lit up here. Now, of course, those pads also correspond to MIDI note numbers, and on the SPD here, what I have done is gone into MIDI, and I have set the proper MIDI notes and channels for 8 of these pads to map directly to these sounds on the MPC. So kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, open hi-hat, I have right here, so I can do that. Tom 1, a little click, a clap, and, well, the mapping's a little different because this is not the instance I actually used. We'll get to that in just a minute, but you get the general idea. By changing MIDI note numbers, I can map the pads to whatever I want. Nice and simple. Right now I'm actually loading in the project I used for yesterday's jam. There we go. Then if I set that track type to a plugin, we will get the drum synth sounds I used yesterday. Awesome. So let's go into Program Edit, and I will show you what's going on here. And sorry if these are hard to see, I will try to describe everything as best I can. So let's use our snare drum here for an example, because I think it's easiest to actually demonstrate what I'm really doing. So we have a couple model types, mute groups, and then a bunch of different parameters per the model type. So I'm on natural model right now, and I can control the tuning, the low, the skin, the noise, and then some different noise settings, and then at the very, very end there, the stereo amount. For my use right now, though, the real interesting controls are down here at the bottom, the velocity settings. So the first velocity parameter here basically just dictates how responsive the snare drum will be to velocity. So at 100%, I get full velocity range, as you can hear. If I turn that down, it's not going to give me any velocity response. It's just going to be based on the overall volume and gain of the patch. I keep it at full so I can actually play the sounds. Velocity 2 is a really interesting one because that actually acts as a modulation source for any one of the 8 parameters per model that we have here. And what's nice is it's bipolar, so you can set velocity to a positive amount or a negative amount, and that's going to dictate how it modulates whatever parameter you've selected as the target. So in my case, I have parameter 1 selected as the target, which is tuning. So if I put this at 100%, when I strike the pad with a velocity of 100%, it's going to play the snare drum with the tuning at maximum, which I have it set to. However, if I hit it lighter than that, it is actually going to scale back and turn down the tuning. Which is so cool, and it makes it so musical and much more listenable and much more playable, which is, of course, very important to me. If I turn it all the way down to negative, and then turn the tuning all the way down, it's the opposite. So the harder I hit it, the lower it's going to change the pitch. Also a pretty cool effect. And as you might imagine, the real sweet spot is going to be somewhere in the middle there, of course, depending on what you're playing and how you're playing it. And, well, there's a million different little things that could determine where you want those settings to be. So that's how the snare drum works, and I have velocity parameters mapped for just about everything on this kit. So for the kick drum, I have parameter 8, which is the amount of noise. So the harder I hit it, the more noise we get. Cool. Now the last ones I want to cover today are the hi-hat and the open hi-hat, because I think it sounds really cool what I've done with them. I actually have velocity 2 mapped to modulate parameter 4, which is stereo. So the harder I hit the hi-hat, the wider it's going to be in the stereo spectrum, which is so cool. What a neat effect. Obviously, you're going to need headphones to really hear that. Yeah, so cool. I've done the same thing for the open hi-hat as well. As you can see, parameter 4, and parameter 4 is stereo. So hard, soft. You can really hear it moving around. So cool. Also, yes, I do have a mute group set up, so the open hi-hat is muted by the closed hi-hat. As it should be. So now let's talk about the send effects and the mixer, because when you're in the multi-instance, you actually have a couple different send effects. You've got a delay and a reverb, as well as a diffuser. And you can change the master settings for those 3 send effects from the send effects screen, and then to actually affect your send levels, click on mixer, click on it again to get to the overall effects, and then click on it one more time to get to sends. You can see there are all of our 8 channels in this multi-instance with all 3 effects per channel. And you can see my values set as such on the screen there. And that's really it. If we go to the main here and pull open our little viewer thingy here, you can see I don't have any send effects on there, which you also could do. I believe I used some in our jam yesterday, and I think I used the XY as well, or that might have been the day before. But as you can see, there's a lot of flexibility here, and it can become a very, very playable instrument for really any drummer. Trying to play a little quiet. It's like 8:50 a.m. So yeah. As you can tell, I'm actually pretty excited about this direction for the MPC One in my setup, and I actually have quite a few ideas for where I want to take this setup in the future. Not quite ready to share those yet. I have to do some more testing and figuring some stuff out, but I am once again very excited about the MPC One. And the best part is I don't have to really engage too much with the MPC workflow. I hope you're all excited to see what I wind up doing with the MPC One. I know I am, and I'm hoping everything works out, because if I do, it's gonna be awesome. Just like the drum synth and playing it live with actual drum pads. So I do hope you found this video informative, or at least entertaining. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it. If not, you can always leave a dislike. That's okay too, doesn't hurt my feelings, just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you all so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.